Here are the evil kids who think murder is fun, starting with the chilling and heading straight for the utterly horrifying. We're examining incidents that shocked communities and investigators alike. Number 5. Juan Fernando Hermosa. In Ecuador, there was this teenager, Juan Fernando Hermosa, who might have looked slight and weak. But trust me, his eyes were like dark pools hiding sinister secrets. They didn't call him the child of terror for nothing. Yup, this kid became the country's youngest serial killer. Talk about disturbing resumes. Juan grew up with his adoptive parents in what seemed like a normal setup. Everything was fine and dandy until he hit 15. You know how it is, hormones kicking in, rebellion brewing. It's like a storm waiting to burst. As a typical teen, Juan was out and about, diving into the nightlife. Arcades, bars, you name it. He even fell into a gang. It's like he was taken off a checklist for a teenage rebellion movie. Because, let's face it, what's high school without a dash of extracurricular chaos? Then, bam! 1991 hit, and Juan thought, why not kick it up a notch? So, Juan, what's the big plan tonight? Think big, my friend. Tonight we're upgrading from petty theft to grand auto. Man, stealing cars? That's heavy. Are you sure? Sure. I was born ready. It's like leveling up in real life, hermano. His idea of fun? A not-so-innocent joyride. Imagine this, him and his pals playing a deadly version of Grand Theft Auto, with a real cab and a real cab driver. Cue the chaos, a wild pursuit, bullets to the hapless driver's head, and a stolen cab as their getaway vehicle. Who knew a joyride could take such a dark turn? That was exciting. And terrifying. Mostly terrifying. Come on, it's just like playing a video game, except the graphics are way better. But hold on, Juan's spree of villainy was far from over. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, he decided to go even further. A week later, he was like, why stop at 1 when you can go for 2, right? I guess. I mean, Netflix does recommend the next episode automatically. Exactly. It's all about the binge, but with crime. And this time, they lured an unsuspecting hairdresser, promising a makeover that's to die for. And boy, did he mean it? Absolutely. But instead of offering the usual salon treatments, he shockingly chose to deliver 5 shots of lead straight to the hairdresser's head, turning a promised makeover into a tragic end. Talk about a cut and blow dry with a bang, huh? Between 1991 and 1992, Juan and his merry band turned life into their own dark game, taking out taxi drivers and LGBTQ folks left and right. But as the saying goes, every party has to end. And for Juan's gang, the cops crashed it hard. The climax, a police raid that's straight out of an action movie. Bullets flying, chaos everywhere, and in a tragic twist, Juan's adoptive mom caught and died in the crossfire. You'd think getting arrested would slow him down, right? Wrong again. Juan turns his prison stint into a sequel. Prison break, anyone? Cue the dramatic escape attempts. 1 guard dead, 2 others injured, and just when you think he's gone for good, bam! Back behind bars again, like a boomerang of bad decisions. Back so soon? I guess I just can't stay away from you guys. We're touched, really. Made you a welcome back card and everything. Then his trial. For 22 murders, guess how long he got? Just 4 years. Yeah, let that sink in. But freedom was short-lived. In 1996, age 20, he met his grim end by the Agua Rica River. Machete wounds, bullet holes, and a face so messed up, his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Kidnapped, tortured, and left for dead. It's a gruesome finale for Ecuador's child of terror. Number 4. Nevada Tan. Imagine a world where your classmate isn't just a genius kid, but also a walking, talking nightmare straight out of a slasher film. Meet Nevada Tan, also known as Girl A, the embodiment of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Picture this, an angelic face with a smile that could outshine the crime scene tape and a mind sharper than any blade she could wield. Oh, and she's just a kid. Now, Girl A wasn't just any brainy preteen acing her exams. She boasted an IQ of 140, but it wasn't just her grades that were deadly. Her friendships were too, especially with Satomi Mitarai. Just 12 and brimming with life, Satomi was Girl A's bestie. Or so everyone thought. Underneath the giggles and shared secrets, a dark undercurrent of jealousy and envy brewed, setting the stage for a tragic climax. Our girl Nevada Tan, she embraced the darkness like it was her best friend. Forget homework, she was deep diving to the darkest corners of the internet, getting chummy with the grim and gruesome. By age 11, she was already a veteran of the dark web. Think of it as her twisted version of Candy Crush.
Dark web or dark chocolate. One ruins lives, the other ruins diets. Guess I'll go for the life-ruining option. Less calories.
And her favorite story? Battle Royale. A cheerful little tale where kids end each other's lives as casually as swapping lunch items. Now that's what I call twisted bedtime reading. Seriously, if she ever asked you to play hide and seek, just run. Cut to a sunny day in 2004, the school corridors buzzing with the usual lunchtime chatter. Girl A has something different on her mind.
I read somewhere that you are what you eat. Then I'm definitely a sweet cupcake. Interesting. I had some killer sushi today, so make of that what you will.
She had slipped a box cutter into her bag that morning, a tool for a gruesome task ahead. With a plot straight out of a horror movie, she lured Satomi into an empty classroom with the promise of a new game. Once inside, the game turned dark as the corners of Nevada Tan's twisted heart. With a cold whisper, she told Satomi to sit down, saying, "You're gonna die." Satomi laughed, thinking it was just a joke, until Nevada Tan blindfolded her, pulled out the box cutter, and in one swift, horrifying motion, slashed her throat. Satomi could only sit in disbelief as Nevada Tan grabbed her wrist and slashed again, leaving her friend to bleed out alone in the quiet room. After the deed, Nevada Tan, now a canvas of blood, strolled back to her class, leaving a scene straight out of a nightmare. Teachers and students froze, staring in horror, while a teacher discovered Satomi's lifeless body, triggering a cascade of sirens and shock. In a twist of fate, the once promising student found herself standing in a trial shrouded in secrecy. And so, justice was served. Or was it?
So, 9 years for that? Guess it's like detention, but it was food.
And here I got 10 for stealing a car. Should have gone big and written a tragic backstory, huh?
With a mere 9 years in juvenile detention, Girl A's punishment felt like she's on a crime vacation rather than paying for her deeds. It's like sending a lion to timeout after it ate the zookeeper. Number 3. Zachary Davis. Ever wondered what happens when the whispers in your mind become louder than reality? Well, say hello to Zachary Davis, a suburb guy who's this close to going bonkers. His eyes were so cold that they could give you frostbite. And his mind? Well, it was buzzing with voices, some real, some not so much. Dare to delve into Zachary's fractured mind? Let's go. It all began with a tragedy in 2007. A father lost, leaving behind a shattered family and a 9-year-old boy drowning in the depths of despair. Oh, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. See, it wasn't just sorrow that wrapped its icy fingers around young Zachary's heart. Nope, something far more sinister and darker was creeping around in his mind, waiting for its moment to leap. The solution? A heart-to-heart chat with a new psychiatrist. So, Zach, what's the latest news from the voices in your head?
Oh, you know, the usual. Whispers, screams, commands.
Sounds crowded. Do they ever take a coffee break?
Sure, when I'm asleep. But even then, they argue over who snores the loudest.
That chat unwrapped a heavy diagnosis, schizophrenia mixed with depression, basically a full-blown party of mental chaos. But alas, before he could even say, "I'm feeling better," his mom Melanie pulled him out of therapy. Off they moved to Sumner County, Tennessee, hoping for a fresh start. Spoiler alert, things didn't go as planned. Fast forward to 2012, and Zachary's life was anything but ordinary.
Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who's the sanest of them all?
Definitely not you, buddy. Ignore him, Zach. You're perfectly fine if you ignore the fact that you're talking to a mirror.
Great. Now I have a panel of judges in my head. What's next? A reality show?
His interests? Well, let's just say they were more CSI than SpongeBob SquarePants. Our dear Zachary sported his favorite hoodie almost religiously. But wait, there's more to him than just weird interests. He was like a twisted Google search. Serial killers? Oh, he could narrate their life stories like bedtime tales. Torture devices? He could give you a guided tour with commentary. And if you thought his reading list stopped at Stephen King's Misery, think again. This guy probably dreamt in nightmares. Hey Siri, find me the happiest place on Earth. The happiest place on Earth is Disneyland, Anaheim, California. Fine, now how about the creepiest? That would be your browsing history, Zachary. Then came that fateful night of August 10th, 2012. Zachary, just a kid at 15, couldn't quiet the screaming voices in his head anymore. After a family movie night, as his mom and older brother Josh settled in, Zachary's mask of normality slipped. He crept down to the basement and came back not with a snack, but with a sledgehammer. As his unsuspecting mom dozed off, possibly dreaming of their next family outing, Zachary unleashed his inner horror movie villain. With a swing here and a thud there, he turned his mom's room into a scene straight out of a slasher film. And the strikes on the head counted to 20 smashes. Ouch. Next stop, the gaming room. With a sinister grin, he ignited the flames. His grand plan? To turn his brother Josh into a crispy critter along with their mom's unfortunate remains, all neatly wrapped in the burning embrace of their home. Talk about a perfect cover-up. But his plan went up in smoke. Literally. As the house turned into an inferno, Josh miraculously escaped, leaving behind chaos and a bloodied mess mom. Later, with the authorities closing in, Zachary was caught just 10 miles from the crime scene, and his wild ride came to an end. In court, his lawyer looked worried. Did you feel anything during the crime? Yes, a slight annoyance. My arm got tired around swing 15. Ugh, no sympathy from the jury. And as for Zachary's trial, picture this. He's chuckling about murder weapons and mimicking the wet thumping sounds. His words, ice cold. I didn't feel a thing when I killed her. He casually muttered, as if he was describing the weather. I guess the only thing colder than his heart was the ice in his veins. In the end, the jury made their decision, and Zachary was headed for a lifetime behind bars. Was he a tragic figure, or just pure evil, you may ask? Maybe a bit of both. Number 2. Craig Price. Ever heard of the Warwick slasher? Well, he's a real piece of work. Meet Craig Chandler Price. This guy was the boy next door, if your idea of normal is breaking, robbing, and the occasional murder. Now let's dive into the notorious story of Craig Price, the youngest serial killer in American history. On a fateful night of July 27, 1987, at just 13 years old, his path to infamy began. With a heart as dark as the night itself, he crept into the home of his 27-year-old neighbor, Rebecca Spencer. Armed with nothing but a kitchen knife from her kitchen and a whole lot of bad intentions, he ended her life. 58 stab wounds later, the neighborhood was plunged into a state of shock. But little did they know, this was just the beginning of Craig's terrifying spree. New year, new me. Who am I kidding? Maybe I should take up meditation. Or, I don't know. Maybe learn to make a stickman animation like this one. Nope, still just a Warwick slasher who's ready for more action. 2 years later, high on a dangerous mix of LSD and evil, Craig struck again. This time his victims were the Heatons. Imagine the horror as he confronted Joan Heaton and her 2 little girls. His attack was merciless. He stabbed Joan 57 times. Then he turned to her young daughters, Jennifer and Melissa, who had just seen him kill their mom. The brutality continued as he strangled, stabbed, and even bit the faces of Joan and Jennifer. 10-year-old Jennifer suffered 62 stab wounds, and poor Melissa, only 7 years old, had her skull crushed with a kitchen stool and was stabbed 30 times. Craig was clever, but not clever enough to avoid leaving a clue. A cut on his hand from that night put the FBI on his trail. Under a guise of a casual checkup, a detective asked about his injury. Craig's shaky denial only fueled their suspicions. Despite his cool demeanor and flimsy excuses, the evidence stacked up. So your hand. That's quite a cut. How did it happen? Oh, you know, the perils of amateur cooking. Amateur cooking? What were you making, buffalo wings? Something like that. Let's just say the chicken fought back. A failed lie detector test and a search warrant revealing bloody knives and clothes sealed his fate. He landed in jail, showing no regret when he confessed. The story of the Warwick slasher might have seemed over, but Craig's violent streak continued even in prison. From fighting other inmates to stabbing one as casually as if it were just another day, he stayed true to his terrifying nature. In a twist of fate, January 2019 brought Craig a hefty dose of reality. He received an additional 25-year sentence, adding a hefty chunk to his time behind bars. It looks like even Craig couldn't dodge karma forever. Number 1. John Venables and Robert Thompson. Imagine two 10-year-olds, Robert and John, turning an ordinary day into a spine-chilling nightmare, etching their names as the youngest murderers in modern British history. This isn't just a grim tale of mischievous kids. It's about how a regular day spiraled into darkness. It was a cold February day in 1993 when these two skipped school and hit the local mall in Merseyside, England. But they weren't just there to hang out. They were on a mission, shoplifting little treasures like sweets, batteries, and even some blue paint.
Let's do something that gets us noticed. Something big. Like what? We've done the sweets and the paint. What's next? Something that makes everyone talk about us. We'll be infamous. Infamous, huh? That sounds like a superhero villain. Well, why not?
As they roamed, their eyes locked onto a tragically vulnerable target, 2-year-old James Bulger. His mom was momentarily distracted by shopping in a butcher shop, and like wolves spotting a lone lamb, John and Robert took his hand and led him away unnoticed.
Say, he's your little brother? Yeah, lost and found. Family edition. Perfect. Who'd doubt us? We're just concerned citizens in training. Right, and all little brothers are found at the mall, obviously.
Along the way, they paraded James in front of dozens of onlookers, spinning tales that he was a lost brother or they were taking him to a police station. Despite James's clear distress, no one questioned their troubling tale. Their first sinister stop was a canal, where they brutally dropped James on his head, causing a forehead injury. But the horror didn't stop there. Ignoring James's desperate pleas for his mother, they dragged him across Liverpool to a railway track, a place cold and isolated, perfect for hiding dark deeds. There, they unleashed a brutal attack on little James. That blue paint they stole, they splattered it in his eyes, then hit him with bricks, kicked him, and shockingly, even forced batteries into his mouth. And as if things were not enough, they grabbed a massive 22-pound iron bar and delivered a crushing blow that fractured his skull in pieces. Imagine the sheer brutality. It's hard to fathom, isn't it? Poor James ended up with a staggering 42 injuries all over his tiny body. And on top of it all, they laid his little body across the railway tracks, weighting his head with debris, hoping a train makes his death look like a tragic accident. But as fate would have it, a train did come, and it was as tragic as you could imagine. James's remains were discovered only days later. It's beyond chilling, isn't it? When the law finally caught up with Robert and John, the grim reality of their actions came to light. They were charged and convicted of murder, serving time, becoming Britain's youngest murderers of the modern era. A dark chapter indeed. In the aftermath, Robert and John pointed fingers at each other, trapped in a classic game of he said, with no winners in sight, only a deeper darkness. The case left the community and the nation grappling with daunting questions. How could such young minds conceive such darkness? It's the kind of stuff that haunts you. You've seen how twisted some kids can be with crimes, but what if there were even more monstrous acts? Don't miss this next video where I uncover the most horrifying acts female Nazi guards committed. Spoiler, it's brutally intense with a shocking twist. I'll see you there.